Doing? It's really cold in here. Mark likes it. I do not. All right, so I'm going to have to reorganize the agenda a little bit because the first person on the agenda I don't see yet. So I'm sure it's because he's still figuring out what he's doing. There he is. We were waiting for you.
Sorry, I was working hard.
Okay, he's got quite a sense of humor. You're all going to have to get used to it because he can say things really straight-faced, so you don't know if he's kidding or not. But we're learning, some of us have worked with him a little bit who are on the interview committee, so are already aware of that, but we're having a hard time with this. It's summer. Maybe it's my eyes are going bad and I can't see how to put it on. Getting old. Okay. I told my husband last night that even though I'm turning 54, I feel like I'm in my 40s. And he's like, okay. Anyway, we have a couple new people to introduce this afternoon. First of all, you were just standing, but you could stand again if you'd like. Yeah, you, Eric. Eric Hermanson, welcome. Let's give him a big kiss welcome. Do you want to say anything about yourself? And if you do, you have to step up to the microphone.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here. It's been a great 3 days, a little bit of a whirlwind. But keep the questions coming. I'm learning as quick as I can. And Lori's been great to work for, so I'm just real grateful for the opportunity. That's it.
Thank you. I noticed we went until about 8:30, 8:45 last night at the board meeting, and I could see towards the end, Eric's kind of like, I thought, oh, he's had a long day and he's got a lot to learn, so thank you for hanging in there. Also, Bill, this is your first presidential briefing, correct? Yes. So I'm sure most of you know who he is because everywhere I go, everybody knows Bill Nicholas, but you want to stand, and if you want to say a few words about yourself? Okay, excellent.
Hi, everybody. This works. I can roll.
Yeah, you're tall, so go ahead.
Likewise, it's a pleasure to be here. I was hired just a month ago, and I've been around these parts for a while. I came here in 1970 to go to graduate school in American history at NIU, and I've stayed here. The degree didn't help me with a lot of my career moves, but it didn't hurt me either. So I'm very pleased to be here. I'm working with the president and the senior leadership team. My title is Special Assistant to the President for Strategic Partnerships. Ooh. And that means that we're all trying to connect even stronger with businesses and other employers in the area that help place our students, and that in return we get some support from. And one of my jobs to start out with is to try to work to encourage and to strengthen those partnerships. And so delighted to be here, and wish you all well today.
Thank you. So all is good, moving right along. First, we'll start out by doing just a little bit of an overview of some of the things we talked about at the board meeting, and then I'm going to ask a couple people who did presentations at the board meeting last night to share those, just to keep you updated on what's going on. Some of the highlights from the meeting is we talked about our crime statistics. We've gone down on our campus regarding our crime statistics, so that's a really good thing. That's good news to share. Our financial aid awards, we did a new infographic. Is that on the web? That not yet?
As part of the
financial aid?
But it's not on the
Okay, we might want to do that. It's a pretty cool infographic. And Bryce, I saw you. It might be something you want to take out with you, or when Bernie goes out, maybe a document to take. It just kind of gives a summary of our financial aid that we offer our students at our college, and it's impressive. It's almost like $11 million, so very impressive. Beth will walk us through our projected fiscal year 17 budget. The board will vote on that next month. So how we're looking there, I know we've talked a lot about budget since I've been here, looking at next year's budget, but we have been able to make a couple of modifications for the better, so we'll walk through that. We've got a couple of projects that we're going to start working on that we got approved at the board last night, an HVAC project and a wheel alignment system for career technology. A couple of those were approved. The adjunct agreement was signed last night and approved. And we're going to start looking at some public health and safety projects. We'll bring those to the board in either July or August, but we'll get those rolling. So we had a couple of appointments that were approved last night. Eric, we already talked about, and then we also have a new facilities director that was approved last night. We're very excited to have Keith Lamb joining our staff. He is coming to us from the Rochelle. Did I say that right? Rochelle. I've been practicing because after the last briefing I was told I said it wrong, so I'm working on, because you know that Seinfeld, Rochelle, that's what I probably even shouldn't have said that, but that's one Bruce Griffith is going to use against me. But Rochelle, he's the facilities director at the Rochelle Township High School right now. For any of you who have been there, you will see it is an immaculate building. It is clean. It looks brand new, even though it's not brand new. So we feel very lucky to be having someone with his expertise joining our staff. And we've got a nice list of projects for him when he gets here. So we're excited to have him joining our team. And he will start on, I think, the 12th. Does anybody know for sure? Kevin's not here. 12th? Okay. Kevin's on his way to Colorado today, so he's not with us. So those were some of the major things. I'll just kind of go through a little bit of my report. I'm hoping some of you look at this. I'm sure you do. We always highlight staff things in the beginning. The DeKalb, City of DeKalb, if you go downtown, we've got the planters there now. They were beautiful in the greenhouse, and they're beautiful downtown. Where I noticed them right away is when I was driving into DeKalb from the college, and as you go across that bridge by where they've torn down some buildings. I'm sorry, I don't know the names of streets very well, but the planters are right along that bridge, and so you can easily see the Kishwaukee logo. Very cool. They look great. So kudos, excellent work for those of you who worked on those planters, and for those of you who shared with me my first day that we had said no in the past, and now we don't say no anymore. So that is a really great thing. And also the bike racks that the folks have put together, the welding department built, and those are now in some of the downtown areas. So good to see the Kish name down there. I went to Potbelly's yesterday, and I was not alone. Where's my IT friends? Yeah. Sitting there having lunch with my family. I had a really long day yesterday. I started at 7, and like I said, I went till about 8:30. So I called them and said, hey, you want to join me for, we've never been to a Potbelly's before. My family hadn't, so they joined me, and some IT friends walked in while we were there. So obviously we're not the only ones who liked it, but looked around Potbelly's and saw an awful lot of NIU stuff. Awful lot. So I think we're going to pretty soon go knocking on some doors. And do we have Kish flags like they have those NIU flags? I think we're going to ask if we don't need as much as them, but could we have a couple of Kish things hanging up? So especially if we're going to go there for lunch. I think we deserve to have some of our stuff up. So we'll have to be working on that and continuing to get our name out there in the community. Lots of news releases. And then just a few college updates. Our enrollment, we're going to end the year pretty far down, folks. We're going to be down about 10.2%. ABE accounts for about 1.3 of that, but that's still, we're almost close to 10% that we're down. But the good news is that we're not going to stay there. For summer right now, we're currently up 6.3%, down 1.2% for the year. But we have a couple of things that's going to increase that a little bit, probably even this week. The one thing is that the student athletes, our sports teams, hadn't done any enrollment yet, and they've started that. So that'll help our enrollments. And also, when we start doing ABE services this fall, that will help get our enrollments up as well. So a couple of things we are predicting to be flat, which is really good news. Again, I've said it a few times in the presidential briefings. This is for 4 years. We haven't seen any positives, so this is very exciting to see that we're going in a good direction with our enrollments. And so that allowed us to make some changes in our budget assumptions, because back in February when we did budget assumptions, we predicted being down another 5%. And the good news is we're not going to be. So kudos. Lots of you are working really hard. We've not only lost a lot of staff, but we've also increased our enrollments in a very short amount of time. So people are working really hard, and I tell the board that a lot, and I want to acknowledge it publicly. I'm very, very impressed with what this college does with the amount of staff you have. You should be really proud of yourselves. We've started some goal setting for the year. I've mentioned that the senior leadership team did a retreat probably about a month ago where we took all of your ideas that had been given earlier about enrollment strategies and cost saving, and we kind of said, yep, we can do it, or nope, it's not really feasible. Then we went through and we assigned it to people. Now we've kind of prioritized it, and we've started to set our goals for the 16-17 school year. We, as a college, will set annual goals. So we will have an overarching goal. We will have some strategies for how we meet that goal, and under those strategies, we'll have some tactics. We'll share that more next month. We're planning to bring it to the board in July, so we'll bring it to this group then in July as well. So what'll happen then is there will be what we've come up with for some tactics. Then this fall, it will go out to the entire college, and then all of you will say how in your area you can help us achieve the outcomes that we want to get to. I'll use online instruction as an example. So if one of the tactics to increase enrollments, one of our strategies will be to grow enrollments. If one of our tactics is to increase our online enrollments, areas could look at what courses could they add in online enrollment, or how could they do more courses that they already offer online format, or student services could maybe come up with something about how they are looking at some programs that support online instruction. IT could talk about looking at technologies that support online instruction. So across the college, there will be things that you can address and how you in your area can implement and help us grow. There'll also be a space under there for things that we hadn't thought of, that we hadn't heard from before from people, that you could add some other tactics that will help us achieve our strategies. And our strategies are pretty broad. So the overarching goal for our college will be to reduce our operational dependence on state aids. We want to get to a stable organization, and the way we're going to do that without having to go through layoffs and all that every year is to reduce the dependence on state aids, because it goes like this, right? For the last year and a half, the last year, we haven't had any. I say year and a half because it's not looking good for fall. So we're going to do that, and it's going to be a 4-year goal to get to the point where 0 of our operations has to be on state aids. And then when we get state aids, we're going to do things like fix our facilities, support our infrastructures, look at our technologies, and look at all of those kinds of things. So we will use our state aids then for our support networks, but for staffing, we will use our local property taxes and our enrollment dollars. Our tuition dollars. So those will be the things that support staff. Then we can be more flat, and people won't have to be nervous about losing their jobs every year, because that will not make us a good organization if everybody's worried about what's going to happen next. It just makes people crazy and not able to do their job. And so we want to get to a point where we don't have that kind of culture. And how are we going to do that? We are going to do that by increasing enrollments, looking at cost-effective strategies, looking at our contracts and some of the things that we do and where can we save costs. We're going to look at it by making sure we continue to focus on quality. And then we're also going to look at how we expand and promote our public-private partnerships. And that's part of what Bill is working on now, to look at how are we serving our businesses and how then can we garner support for our college operations and other initiatives, our infrastructure, through private donations. So those will be our 4 strategies on this overarching goal. And then the tactics underneath, like I said, will fall in those 4 buckets. You have to continue to have your focus on quality. We've got AQUIP. We want to make sure we're doing good things. And that's where things like our looking at professional leadership development academy, succession planning, looking at our vision and mission, all of those kinds of things will fall under that quality. We've got to make sure we're focusing on good things at our college, being a good employer and doing the right things for our students and focusing on student success. So just lots of ideas being generated, and again, we've got to make them measurable So that's a project that folks are working on right now, and I know a lot of you will be involved in that in your areas as your leaders bring those back. And then again, we'll figure out how we roll this out to the college in the fall so that everybody understands their role in achieving our college goals. So, any questions on that? More to come. I know it's a little complicated, but it will be great. Legislative, I've discovered that my job will continue to have a lot of time spent. I'll have to spend a lot of time working with our legislators, which is great. We'll help them understand the awesome things we do. And to be honest, for the most part, the legislators that I have worked with do get it. They understand the value of community college. It's just some of the other things that are going on there, but we'll continue. You know, one of the messages, I was in Springfield a week ago, and one of the messages we can continue to hear is squeaky wheels get the grease. So we're just going to have to keep talking about it and keep talking about it. And saw Bob Pritchard twice this week, continue to hammer on him. So we'll just continue to keep talking about it. We held community listening sessions recently. We were in 5 locations. We didn't have the greatest turnout. So we're going to try another strategy, and Bill's working on getting a few of those set up with some key stakeholders to make sure we're meeting needs, because when we meet needs, then we can do an ask for resources. So working on that, a lot of community things going on. Like I said, I've been in Springfield twice in the last 2 months, continue to do that work. Communications with, talk about my communications with staff. Just met with Matt. It seems like our meeting always falls right before the presidential briefings. And also the President's Council, which I sent out an email quite some time ago looking for volunteers to be on the President's Council, and an email just went out a little bit ago today. I'm very impressed. I was very, very impressed with people answering the questions and submitting applications to be a part of this. 21 people from the college will initially serve on the President's Council. That's a big group. That's bigger than I anticipated having it, but I think at this point we'll just go forward with that and we'll see how it goes. And we know that some meetings people won't be able to make. But here is the list of people who will be serving on the President's Council, and we will start meeting in July. I'm sorry if I butcher last names. I'm not at 6 months yet, so I still get 1 more month to figure out last names. Kevin Braden, and this is in alphabetical order. Cynthia DeSafe? Okay, she's an adjunct instructor. Jerry Fox, Nadine Franklin, Dan Fritsch, Lori Heckrow, Amy Arman, Carla Johnson, Kim Jordal, Jennifer Jossendal, Connie Kessen, Mindy Lang, Bryce Law, Jody Lord, Jenny Morgan, Doug Mosier, Amanda, thank you. Oh, the next one too. Cynthia Prendergast. Did I say that right? Prendergast. Rhonda Ramsell, Tricia Wagner, and Everett Westmeyer. So thank you. Give a round of applause for those people who volunteered. I think this will be an annual thing. So then next spring we'll open it up for new people to apply to be a part of it. And we'll continue to, hopefully, again, we'll continue to hear what's going on in the college. It's an attempt for me to really continue to listen, to solicit feedback, and understand what's going on in the college and making sure that people feel listened to. So, again, looking forward to starting that in July. And we'll go from there, see how it goes. One other thing I want to mention, last Saturday, I had my first experience in a Kish parade, a parade for Kish. Connie drove the car. Jill was sitting on the sideline cheering in Genoa. I would really encourage all of you, any of you, and we can figure out a way to compensate people who are pay timesheet people, but it's a really cool experience to be a part of these parades. There is so much Kish love in the community, and people are excited. They want to tell you their stories. I went down and shook hands with people and talked to them, and gave candy to the high schoolers and said, now make sure you come to Kish when you graduate. And we could use more people volunteering to do this, and it really is a great thing. So I hope you will consider it in the future. We've got a DeKalb parade coming up. We've got a Rochelle parade coming up, so consider volunteering and being a part of it. It's just a lot of fun, isn't it, Connie? Yes, so, and Eric got to hold the banner with my husband. They moved here on Wednesday. I told him on Saturday we're in a parade. My 11-year-old was pretty excited about it. He's like, I've never been in a parade. This is awesome. So threw a lot of candy. It's good. It is. It's a really fun thing. Lindsay and her family. Is Lindsay here? There you are. Yep. What'd you think, Lindsay?
It was my first time too. I loved it.
Yeah. She had her little guy Henry in the stroller, and he had his little Kish t-shirt on. So again, it's just a really good way for us to continue to market and sell our college and spread the goodwill of what we do. So I would encourage you to participate if you're so inclined, or step out of your comfort zone. Get out of the box and give her a try. So that is pretty much it from what I talked about and what the board went over. And like I said, there were a couple other points. And so I'm going to ask now, let's start with Beth. Beth, there you are, right in front of me. Beth will share the PowerPoint on the budget. Well, we've got Brooke up there ready to help us if we run into a problem.
The PowerPoint's going, we just can't see it. Oh, there we go. I don't just bang it. Well, since you did a good job getting it working, you could do this too, right? Ah, come on. Okay. Earlier in February, Dr. Borowitz had gone through some of the budget assumptions with the staff and with the Board of Trustees, and I'm just going to review those. Some of those have changed. As she mentioned earlier, because of the way, sorry, I have to stay up here, that the enrollment has been for our summer and our fall, that we have decided to change our enrollment projection from being down 5% to a flat enrollment. And with changing that to a flat enrollment, we also changed our assumption of our state funding. Our original budget assumption for our state funding was to reduce the state by 50%. However, since we are going with a flat enrollment, we decided to make a larger reduction in the state funding by changing that assumption to 59.2% reduction in the state funding. One other revenue assumption that we had was that our EAVs for our tax levy year of 2015 would increase approximately 3%. And I have received all of the EAV confirmations from our counties, and it has increased about 3%. And then we also are projecting a flat EAV for our tax year 2016. For those of you that may not be familiar, our tax year 2015, we get half of it for fiscal year 16 that we're currently in, and the other half is for fiscal year 17. And then our tax year 16, the first payment is at the end of fiscal year 17. That's why we have to project what our EAVs would be for 2 tax levy years. Are there questions on that? And then at our March Board of Trustees meeting, they approved a $10 tuition increase, as well as the variable tuition for our radiologic technology programs. Next, I would like to discuss the expenditure assumptions that were given to the budget managers in order to start the budgeting process. We are in the 3rd year of the faculty contract, so we needed to put in those committed pay increases along with the with our first negotiated adjunct union contract, so we had to put those into our budgets. We're also projecting an 8% increase in health insurance. We have not heard anything. We do not know this for a fact, but it's been the trend over the past few years that there has been an insurance increase, so we wanted to take that into consideration for our expenditures for next fiscal year. We limited our capital needs to critical, which means they had to be done or else we couldn't operate. And with doing that, we reduced our expenditures by almost $900,000. We asked our budget managers to reduce the travel as well as reducing our student worker budget. Part of our student workers with the federal funding, federal worker study budget, in the past, the college has matched 25% institutional funds. That was a requirement. Cindy Stonecipher, she wrote a letter requesting that we would have that waived based on our financial needs, and that was waived for us. So we no longer have to match that 25% institutional, which reduced our student worker budget by $20,000. That was just a piece of the reduction. We reduced that overall by about $140,000. And then, as you're all aware of, the reduction in force that took place earlier in March. Questions on the expenditures? As Lori mentioned earlier, we would like, the overall goal for the college is to reduce our dependency on the state funding. The top left shows the pie of all of our revenue sources for fiscal year 17 budget. And you can see the red piece, which is our state funding, is at 10%, which is a much smaller piece than our current fiscal year 16 budget is, which is at 22%. And then our tuition and fees, if your state funding reduces, that means your other revenue sources have to increase. So our tuition and fees are going to represent 54% of our revenue as opposed to 48% currently. And then our local government, that's our property taxes, is 35% for fiscal year 17 against a 30% currently. And with that being said, this is what our preliminary budget as of yesterday that was presented to the Board of Trustees. It has current year and projected fiscal year 17 for revenue and expenditures. Some things I wanted to point out, or questions that were asked at the board, was in regards to our contractual services. You'll notice that that was decreased by $460,000. $320,000 of that was the elimination of the Airmark contract. However, we didn't realize $320,000 savings because we brought on a facilities director, which that cost shows up in the salaries and benefit line. Also, the materials and supplies, that is part of a request that the budget managers do for needs that aren't the operational needs. The request that they would like to, trying to think best how to explain it, that they would want in order to move forward with their programs, but it's not an absolute necessity. Previously, I said we kept those to critical needs, and by doing that, we were able to reduce the materials and supplies by $730,000. Are there any questions?
I think it's just important to note that our overall budget is going down by 12.1%. So we've reduced it by 2.8 million. That's, how we've, for the most part realized the savings in the state aids, but it's still really impressive that we've gotten our budget to this point, and that we are healthy fiscally as a college, even given what we've been through this year.
No questions? Okay, thank you.
So I just want to add to that and comment on where we're at with our fund balance at the conclusion, how we're doing at the conclusion of fiscal year 16. So we started with 5.9 million, I think. Beth, you can correct me if I'm saying any of this wrong. about 5.9 million in our reserves, our cash reserves. And we had anticipated that at the end of the year, we'd be at like 1.3. Thank you. We did get 1.1 from the state, 1.1 million, and most of that, about 100,000, a little over 100,000, we are spending on ABE and Bill, but Bill's gonna make his money back. He's kind of got a cost recovery position. He's gonna have to make his money, so he's good with that. But so we spent about $1 million, let's say $1 million went back in. So we thought we'd be at 1.3, we add $1 million, that's 2.3. We thought, well, we're budgeting $2 million of state aids next year, so we're good. Because you've all done such a great job this year of not spending down your budgets. Now Jill's smiling because now my numbers are gonna add up this month. We are actually going to, it is projected that we are gonna end the year with a fund balance of about 3.6 million. That's really, really good news. So if we're projecting that we're gonna get 2 million, a little over 2 million in state aids next year, and we've got 3.6 million in cash reserves, that's why Jill's smiling. We can do that. We can, and so as we implement cost saving strategies and other things, we're only gonna be able to contribute more to that cash balance, which will help us fiscally. You've got to have a fiscally strong college, which means you have to have a little bit of a savings account okay, who was it? Has quite the ring. So that you're in a good place, when you're needing resources for whatever reason. The bond rating company and others, they need to know that you're doing okay fiscally, and that if something would happen, that we have some money to pay for things. So we're doing really well. We're doing much better, because a couple of months ago when I was talking about this and saying, well, we'll have 1.3 in reserves, and at that point we were counting on 2.5 million from the state. I said, well, we'll be okay, and that's when Jill's like, Lori, that's not okay. Well, now we're just the reverse. We're thinking we're budgeting for 2 million from the state, and we're gonna have 3.5 in reserves. So you all need to pat yourselves on the back for what you've been doing to grow enrollments, to save money. Yes, Anne Marie, It is really impressive. When Beth brought me that news this week, I was like, yahoo, we're doing good. So we are a good college, and we do a lot of things, and we're fiscally conservative, and that only makes us better. So, but we will continue. I've had this philosophy, and I'm gonna say it again. Sometimes you've got to spend money to make money. We're gonna have to, when we get our tactics, when we're looking at spending money, we're gonna look at spending it on things that help us achieve those goals, and we're gonna have to continue to do that. We're gonna have to be strategic about how we spend our resources. I mentioned a little bit earlier when we were talking about our strategies that one of them is a focus on continuous quality improvement. And I've mentioned before, and I'm gonna mention it again, and I'm gonna keep talking about this, we have got to start this fall writing our AQUIP portfolio. We have to be accredited. If we're not accredited, we are not a college. We cannot give financial aid, we cannot get grants, we cannot do a lot of things. We won't have students coming here. So what we do with our AQUIP portfolio and our accreditation is incredibly important to this college. And we are going to have to figure out how we allocate resources to being able to do that. Now, there's great minds working on that right now. Mark and Joanne and Anne Marie a little bit are starting to have some conversations about how do we make this work? How do we work on writing our portfolio with the staff we have, giving people maybe some new opportunities, rather than just right away going out and saying, okay, we have to hire a position. And honestly, I don't think you could go out and just hire a position to write your AQUIP portfolio. They have to know your institution a little bit. So we're working on it. We're going to try to find some cost-effective ways to do it, but just be mindful. Again, I want to share that, that there will be times, and people will probably question it, but go ahead, ask the questions. We're going to be transparent. We're going to be open. If you're wondering why we're adding positions and why we're doing things, it's because sometimes you've got to spend money, because you can't just be focused on the short term. You've got to be focused on the long term. I talked about Bill, and really nobody's asked me any questions about it, but to bring a high-level executive into our college, because remember, one of my strategies, our strategies, is that we're going to develop stronger private-public partnerships. We need resources to be brought into this college to support our equipment to do those things. The way we have to get there is that we have to have people who are building those relationships with our businesses by them seeing an ROI by working with Kishwaukee College, whether it's hiring our employers, offering internships, offering programs maybe that we don't have here, or certificates or some short-term training. We kind of have a hole there right now, and I think I shared that. I heard that a lot when I was out in the business community. So we needed to bring somebody in and spend some money who has the reputation and who understands the business community to really help us assess that and go forward. It's going to pay off in the end. I have no doubt we are going to reap some great benefits by having that position at our college and growing that area. So we will continue to look at some things like that, and I think, again, that's a long-term strategy. But we will continue to go that way. One of the other discussions that we have had a few times is this idea of when we cancel classes and how many students do we need in that class to cancel it. And there will be times when we are going to run classes that we're taking a hit on. And we're going to do that for a couple of reasons, because first of all, I want the perception to be in the community. If you sign up for a class at Kish, you're pretty assured the class is going to run, and that we're not canceling late, or that we're not doing it necessarily because we're not breaking even on the class. So there's going to be some losers and some winners, but at the end of the day, if we don't cancel a class that we maybe lose a little bit of money on, but then we get all those students to re-enroll the next semester rather than walking out the door and going to our neighbor because they're like, well, don't go to Kish because they just cancel classes on you. If we start to get that reputation of you sign up, you go, they start to talk about it, we're going to be a much stronger college. And again, that's an example of when you take some risks so that in a long-term strategy you're making money. And we're going to continue to do that as a college. So does anybody have any questions on any of that? On any of our finances? I'm going to try real hard to help you understand what's going on with the money in this college. I think that's really important. So a couple other changes that we're making, because again, we're going to lose a little bit of money in some of these changes, but one of the things we're doing is our payment plan cost. We're dropping it from $50 to $25. It's going to cost this college $60,000 to do that. But here's why we're doing it. First of all, because we always need to ask if we're making decisions in the best interest of our students. We're charging our students who can't afford to pay their tuition $50 to still be a student. And what we're hearing is students are saying, I can't pay the $50, and they're leaving us. So we're going to take a risk, and we're going to forego the $60,000 that we made on that extra $25, because it's $50 for the payment plan, $25 has to go to the company that does the payment plans for us, and then $25 we got to keep at the college. We're going to forego that $25 at the college in hopes that more students join the payment plan and stay enrolled in their courses. We're going to take a little bit of a risk, but we're going to try it. And really, it's what's right for students. We were charging those students, we were making the $60,000 on the students who can't afford to pay their tuition. So while it's nice to have the money, and it's hard to give up the money when we're in such tough times, I still think at the end of the day, we're going to be better off because we're going to keep more of them here. And if we keep them here initially, we might keep them here for subsequent semesters. And that's the really important thing. And the message out there then is, Kish really works with us to try to figure out how we can stay a student. We also changed the drop date for non-payment. We used to be at 5 weeks. Now we're going to be at 3 weeks. And then we're going to look at our course cancellation as 2 weeks. Mark and I are going to do some assessing of that this summer for fall and see how that goes. So we're really looking at how do we make this work for our students and in the best interest of our students. And we're giving them a little bit more time to get organized and a little bit more time before they have to go on the payment plan and really trying to get them in the door. And you know what? If it backfires and it doesn't work, we can always go back to doing the old way. But I think sometimes we've got to take some risks and we've got to try a few things. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions on some of those changes? Okay. It looks like then that I have gone through everything that I wanted to talk about, and we still have about 20 minutes. So, okay, you guys do your thing yet. I'm sorry, I moved right into the next. I got so busy talking about money. Katie's going to show, and Mike is here, and Mike is going to show. So come on up, folks. There were a couple more presentations that were done at the board meeting. One is the walking path, and one is, I think we already did that. No, you didn't do the interactive map yet. Okay.
Oh, but before you go back up and stand there.
I listen.
Good. So in the back of the room are cookies to celebrate Lori's birthday. So I thought we could go ahead and sing her a lovely rendition of Happy Birthday before she leaves the stage.
Okay, are you going to sing in the microphone? I'm going to listen.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lori. Happy birthday to you.
And many more. Thank you. Truly, this is when it's so wonderful to be a president, and it's very humbling, but it makes some of those really crazy 14-hour days all worth it. So thank you, and it really is an honor to be your president. But with that, I'll let Katie finish, and then we'll share good news.
Okay, so don't forget the cookies in the back, please. And I also want to touch really quickly on one other thing Lori mentioned about the parades. What she didn't mention is you also get a t-shirt. Yay, we all love Kish t-shirts. And then we also do a pizza party in September for all parade walkers. So there's a couple more incentives along with just having fun and being out there with your colleagues. If you are interested, you can email or stop by and tell Sarah Hall, and we would love to include you on the 2 parades we have coming up. Connie?
Could I make one comment about?
You gotta go to the microphone.
I just wanted to say I've been doing the parades for probably 20 years, and you're the first president we've ever had walk. And thank you for that.
Sorry, the projector's warming up, it says. Is that what you had too, projector? There we go. Okay. As many of you know, a year ago, we launched a new website, and when we started the talks about the website, which were 2 years ago actually, we did some listening sessions on campus with key stakeholders on campus, students, community members, prospective students, parents, and we got a long list of suggestions and ideas, and included in that was this idea for an interactive campus map. That the maps we had out there, they were helpful, but they really didn't provide a visitor to our campus the interaction that they were looking for. At the time, it was outside the scope of the website, so we did not include it in the website project, but we did write a grant to the foundation through their departmental grants, and we were successful, and we launched an interactive campus map. Part of that planning of that was Ann Wilson from Accessibility, Tracy Comedina from the Switchboard, Bryce Law from Recruitment, Pat Zilm from Facilities, Michelle Rothmeyer from Admissions, and Lindsay Barron. That group met over the course of like three or four months, and they really delve into what are the key areas on campus that students and prospective people are visiting, where are some of the sticky points that people are having a hard time finding, and I think they put together a really nice product for people that are coming to our campus. So. So it's on our website under About. If you go to Campus Maps, open Interactive Map. And so it provides a nice overview of the entire campus. You can zoom out, you can zoom in, you can drag it. One of the other cool features of it is if you zoom in, it shows you all the room numbers. So there's the first floor, and then it shows you the second floor. You can then also check areas that you're interested in. Everything for accessibility is listed. Elevators, restrooms, academic areas. Anything that's a green initiative is on here. Parking, points of interest, all the student services offices. Another cool feature that we have on here is study abroad. And it just goes to another map that showcases all of the places that we offer study abroad opportunities. So it's just really kind of a neat, useful tool. Go back to regular one. There we go. There's also inside of it, if you click on areas, You can get descriptions. Trying to find some. It's still in progress, but maybe go to the second floor. You can also put photos in there. Founders Boardroom, which they just had the dedication last night. There's a photo. So we can put photos, and another cool thing is we can do embed videos. One of the things that we're going to be working on this summer and into the fall is you can also add in 360 panoramic views. So Lindsay's going to be working on that to get that accomplished. And it is mobile friendly. So if you go to campus maps from your mobile phone, you can still view this. So it'll be a nice tool. And once we update all the campus signage and the maps with all the moves that are happening on campus, we will include a link to that so people that come to campus can also then see that we have an interactive map that they can then put onto their phone and help them. It is not capable to where you can enter your destination and it will give you directions to that location, but maybe that's something we can look at in the future. Another cool feature, any questions on this part of it so far? Any comments? I encourage you to go out. There's a lot of different things listed on here. If you notice something that's missing and you think we should add, please let us know. It's a continuous project and we're happy to improve it as we can. But another cool thing we're able to do is tours. And I'm going to have Mike come up here, and he's going to explain this a little bit more. But this has a really good future capability of it. Right now, we have a tour in here for the campus walking path, which Mike will talk about a little bit more here, but I just want to show you the capability of it. But you can do tours on here that will then guide you from point to point. So there's point 2, point 3, point 4, and so on and so on. But the capabilities that we have for this is for events like college night. We could do a tour where we have a lot of public that come out here and they're having to go over various parts of campus. We can create a tour that then shows them how to get from one point to the next as they're navigating through the building. Same thing with commencement. Again, we have a lot of public that comes out here. We could do a tour on here that then identifies all the locations within the building, such as the reception, where the graduates line up, how do you get to the gym, accessibility, parking. We can do tours that will help those visitors to campus navigate a little bit better once they get here. Any questions on the campus map before I turn it over to Mike, who is going to highlight a little bit more the walking tour? Oh, yeah, sorry. That came up last night as well, and they were changing the link in the mobile app to go to the interactive map, correct?
We're testing it with Aaron.
Yeah. So you're talking about the Aleutian Go?
Yes.
Yep, we are working on getting that up and running, so, yeah. Any other questions? And again, thank you to the foundation. It was another great project that their departmental grants help fund, so. Okay, Mike, look at you. Video.
I think we're just on so while we're pulling up the video, the walking tour that Katie was talking about is a garden pathway. It also was an award from the foundation that the campus operations applied for last year, and that the foundation was very generous in giving us $5,000 to start the walking tour. We tried to find areas. We have a really beautiful campus, a lot of green space, a lot of wonderful gardens, and there really wasn't a way to connect them all. And we also had a lot of walkers that were spending their lunch hours walking around on the ring road, and they're going two abreast, and we have cars that are going around and going into the out lanes to try to avoid them. So that wasn't the safest option for walking around campus. So we figured it was probably a better bet to try to keep them onto a pathway and take them around campus to some really beautiful areas and some tranquil way to spend your lunch hour. This too is a work in progress. We need to put up some signs. We need to still do some painting and striping. And it also opens itself up to different groups being able to add to it. We were thinking that athletics or wellness could add workout stations along the pathway. So if you're so inclined and you want to do pull-ups or sit-ups or balance beam, walking type things, that they could do that. We could have different areas to sit and rest, to have different benches or picnic areas. But the pathway will take you all around campus. Anywhere you start, if you go along the furthest route, it's about 1.5 miles. It goes all the way out to the athletics fields, goes out to the baseball diamond, goes through the tree line back behind athletics, and takes around the pond and then back onto campus. So I think it's better to show through a video what you'll see if you go on the path, and I'll stop talking.
Thank you, Mike, and we want to wish you well as we're ending our contract with Aramark. It was not an option for us to keep Mike on staff, so we wish you well in future endeavors, and thank you. Thank you. All right, so with that, good news. Who's got something good to share? Joanne, please step up to the microphone.
I just wanted to welcome Ann Mueller. She's taken over as the coordinator of tutoring services, and she's here on a supplemental day, and we are very excited to have her join us.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Betty, you must have something to say.
I'm going to go on behalf of Betty.
Okay.
So on Monday, the foundation held their golf outing. It was a beautiful day, and I had the pleasure of golfing with Betty Chilton, Jody Lord, and Karen Schmidt. And it was Betty's third time out golfing, and she beat the pro. So she whacked the heck out of it on hole 4. I don't know, but she beat the hole 2. She beat the pro. She drove to the green, and for anybody that's a golfer or a non-golfer, that's a big deal. And so to do that on her third time out there to beat the pro at Kishwaukee Country Club, that's a big deal. So kudos to Betty.
I think there's some painting going to be starting somewhere on the campus. Does anybody want to talk about that? I think it's pretty darn exciting.
So, maintenance is currently closing off some exposed insulation on the north and south ends of the auto shop, and so we will be getting that covered up. I know I was in there yesterday, and Roger has done a great job so far on the north end. He was just wrapping that up, and then that's going to be painted, so it's going to be a much improved appearance there, and now we're working on the diesel shop soon as well, so we're making progress there.
It's going to be looking good.
I would also like to congratulate Betty. I asked her how she did. She just said, oh, it went well. She didn't mention it. You did a lot better than I didn't get anywhere near the green. I want to thank everybody, since Katie brought it up, we did have a very successful outing on Monday. Thank everybody who participated, and also we had a number of people who volunteered. Big thanks to everybody, and Dr. Borowitz, Bill were out there driving around, handing out snacks and whatnot. So thank you to everybody for a very successful event.
Thank you. It really was a good, it's a good opportunity. A lot of college supporters are there. We made a lot of good business connections, and Bill really was trying to drive. He was driving me, and he was trying to throw me out of the car. Made a couple of really sharp turns, but I survived. Yes, Beth.
I would just like to congratulate Joe Dom for the great work that he has done in expanding our truck driving program, and he just signed, I believe it was a $90,000 contract with ComEd. So if you see him, give him a big round of applause.
Anybody else? All right, well, there was a lot of really good news shared here today. There's a lot of really great things happening, more to come. As always, feel free to share comments, concerns. That is one thing I've been hearing a little bit of this summer. I think when things slow down, people get a little bit more free to share. But, I've talked a lot about the kind of culture we hope to create here. And it is so, so important. We are only going to get better as a college if we share what's not working. And so we have to be okay with sharing things that aren't going as well as we think they could. I will say it again. I've said it before. I'll say it forever. It's not what you say. It's how you say it. So really, though, it's so important that people feel free to speak up and talk about things. And we just have to create a culture where people feel free to do that and aren't afraid of the ramifications. So please feel free. My door is always open. Lots of people's doors are open. Yes, Betty, now you got something to say. All right, stand up.
Because this might be the last time, and I looked over and I saw Chase, and I'm so happy that Chase is working by our side in the Dean team. But I am so sad, as I look in the back, that we will not have Sarah Poole in our Dean team. And what she has done for me in this role, and what she has done for this organization, institution, academia, for so many of us, really deserves one more huge round of applause.
And with that, Shelley.
We know a way to cut down on cost. Turn the air down in this room when we're in here.
We'll have to, it is cold in here. It's ridiculously cold. All right, yes, thank you. We'll work on that one. All right, thank you again. Have a great summer, midsummer. I'll see you back in a month. Safe 4th of July, and thanks again for all you do.